There is nothing Trump is going to be able to do when he's in court and they play the tape of him trying to pressure the Georgia official into finding more votes for him. Once the jury and the judge hears that, he is down for the count.
Absolutely, Andrea. So this is the first day of a 3-week waiting period. As you know, we've been watching the Fulton County Courthouse very closely over the past 2.5 years, but we're going to be watching it especially closely over the next 3 weeks. And that's because Fani Willis has made it clear, or given really the strongest indication yet, that she suspects that she intends to announce her charging decisions in this 3-week period. She put out a letter to law enforcement earlier this year, essentially saying, hey, be ready for these 3 weeks. We want to make sure security is tight. I'm having most of my employees work from home, and she's asking judges not to schedule any in-person trials or hearings during this time. So that's certainly the closest indication that, along with the fact that we have orange barricades that have now been lined up in front of the Fulton County Courthouse, that they're certainly preparing for an announcement in the next few weeks. But all of this comes as we get a bit of breaking news today, Andrea. As we know, as we've been getting closer and closer to any sort of announcement, the former President Trump and his legal team have been pushing back, really trying to disqualify this entire process, to stop this entire process. Well, a judge today knocked down yet another attempt that his legal team made to do so. So they've filed 3 motions, essentially, to quash the special grand jury report and to disqualify the Fulton DA from investigating. The Georgia Supreme Court shot down attempt number 1 a few days ago. Attempt number 2 was shot down just this morning, and that likely could possibly nullify attempt number 3. So certainly
Well, Trump is so desperate not to go to jail. It's pretty hilarious when the leader of law and order is afraid of following the laws and following order.
hit for the Trump legal team. Now, in their process, what this means, Andrea, is that the judge rules that, if she makes her decisions, when she makes her announcements, there's nothing standing in the way of that. But what's interesting is that the Trump team really tried to get in on the front end of this before any sort of charging decisions were announced, and they tried to discredit the entire process. In their filing, they pointed to a number of media appearances. They pointed to the interview that aired right here on MSNBC, that nearly 45-minute interview that I did with Emily Kors, the special grand jury foreperson, saying that the fact that so many people were speaking publicly about this discredits this. But a judge shot that down. I want to read you a little bit of what he wrote in his opinion today. He said, the district attorney's office has been doing a fairly routine and legally unobjectionable job of public relations in a case that is anything but routine. So in the sense that Trump's attorneys tried to point to her media appearances here on MSNBC and elsewhere, saying that, that kind of shows she should be disqualified. The judge has made it clear he has no problem with this, and she should proceed as planned. Andrea.
And Tim Hafey, I want to play parts of that call between former President Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, because it was highlighted, as you know, as you did with the January 6th committee after your investigation.
But the ballots are corrupt, and you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them, because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. So look, all I want to do is this: I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
He wants them to find just enough votes that shows that Trump won because he believes he won Georgia. So there has to be, hidden votes somewhere. And it's pretty wild that he's trying to say he is being criminal by not breaking the law, the Georgia County official.
So, Tim, how difficult is that recording for Trump's legal defense team as they prepare for this possible indictment?
Yeah, Andrea, I've heard that recording, dozens, maybe hundreds of times, and it just continues to be shocking. I mean, right there, the president of the United States is essentially threatening the Secretary of State of Georgia with some sort of obstruction charge, which is, again, just like the election fraud claims, completely baseless. There's so much audio tape in this case and in the documents case that, look, as a former prosecutor, you almost never have, right? The words of the lead defendant in a case on tape, in recording, in an unguarded moment, really, really powerful evidence. And what we're seeing on that tape is what we saw not just in Georgia, but all over the country. Rusty Bowers in Arizona.
And Trump was trying to use his power as president at the time to intimidate the Georgia official by saying that, he's committing some kind of criminal offense. Uh, and Trump and his base claims that he is not like some kind of criminal dictator. Yeah, that's the behavior of a dictator, to threaten with punishment if a person doesn't obey what you want.
Very similar testimony about calls from the president encouraging him to do something for which he had no legal authority. So what you'll see potentially as an indictment in Georgia will be not just indicative of what happened in that state, but a pattern that happened around the country, as our work on the Select Committee showed.
Do you think, by the way, that they will try to challenge the admissibility of that audio tape?
Very difficult to do when you've got a participant in the call who will authenticate it. That's all it takes for a prosecutor. Is it relevant? Pretty clearly relevant. And is it authentic? You likely have Brad Raffensperger as a witness who will say, that's me and that's the former president. So I don't really see a legal basis to exclude that audio tape.
And I assume that in Georgia, unlike in other jurisdictions, you don't have to have both parties to agree to the audio tape.
No, absolutely not, right? All it takes for admissibility is authentication, and that can come from one participant.
One other question is about, the two Georgia election workers, and do they play a part in this? Would you expect to see them as witnesses on the effects, the impact on them?
I would, Andrea. It sounds to me, just from what I've read, that the DA has given several of them immunity. You only give someone immunity if they have exposure or participation in a criminal episode. And if they have provided information about what they were told to do, what they were asked to do by Trump campaign officials, then that they could end up being important witnesses. In any conspiracy, some of the most important evidence comes from insiders, people who were participants in the conspiracy themselves. And if the DA has that here, that could be really important and powerful evidence.